Hello there, I'm Nalina, and today I'm sharing a video of a base game only build. This house was actually meant to um, be a starter build, but I ended up going crazy with the floral on the outside of the house. So that ended up racking up a few simoleons. So it ends up not being a starter home. It's just a base game build and it's actually really small. It's really surprising how much money you can spend even if your builds are like super tiny because if you want to put the outside, if you want to do like plants or whatever, that really those plants are expensive, and so are your refrigerator and your bathroom stuff. They're pretty expensive. So this house I went through twice actually. The first time I worked on it, I did the interior and exterior and interior, but I wasn't too happy with the way the inside looked. I had made it very open floor plan except for the bathroom, which is that little part of the house that's sticking out. But that gets changed. It gets changed into the bedroom, and we totally rearranged everything. I would have liked to have shared a before and after, but I actually ended up. What happened? Oh yeah, I didn't save any of that part. I just ended up deleting. Did I delete it? Yeah, I deleted it and I didn't take any photos because I knew that I wasn't happy with how the inside looked. So I just left it alone for a little while. The reason why I came back to small builds is because first, when I do really long videos, I do have a full-time job, so trying to get those up and get those edited, even when I'm waiting for them to, um, what's the word? When they're rendering, it takes forever. So I decided to stick to smaller builds, and that allows me to give a shorter video, and I can get them done more quickly. So there you can see there's a lot of glass, and I'm just trying to make the house blend in with this kind of deserty surroundings. I will use a lot of the same plants, and I use a lot of the cacti options that we have. So I wanted to go for a very modern look because that's something I really like modern builds. I don't think I'm very good at them, but I do like them, so I wanted to give my hand out, and I was just trying out a lot of things with this build. Oh yeah, I also add eventually a um, fountain. Is it a fountain? Water fountain out front, and I actually make it red instead of the blue water, but that's because it's meant to stick out. There it is. Yeah. Um, Usually I've been using little fountains to replicate like a small pond or like some kind of water reserve area. But this wasn't meant to be the same thing as that, so I decided to make it red. I thought the red really went well with this kind of orangey surroundings. Um, I don't know, I just feel like it blended a little bit, and I really like the way that the red looked better. Um, Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if that red color is like base game stuff, because if it's not, then I'm so sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'm just adding around these plants. Those round little pumpkiny um, cactus, I never know what to do with them. They just look like pumpkins, and I feel like they should belong in a very specific place. But with the floral and the rocks, I was just trying to fill up space on the outside. So here we are on the inside. This is where I start to change it up. You can see there's a bathroom, there's a little wall there, and that little half wall was actually where the kitchen is. And then the bedroom was up against the back wall. with that little entrance into the bathroom. So I was gonna move the bedroom into this little section where I had the kitchen, but then I felt like the space was too small, because this was meant to be like maybe for two Sims. So if you did have two Sims and they were living in this place, they would have needed space to get them into the same bed. But then I decided that I'm gonna move the bathroom out and create a totally different space. And that's why we moved the bedroom, which actually I thought was kind of a good idea because now you have those smaller windows and there's more privacy. Except your bathroom now is going to be, it's going to have these huge windows and it's going to be no privacy because I actually end up putting the shower right in front of the windows. It's fine. I mean, your apartment's backyard is just staring into like a little lake that's there, and there's some rocks covering it. So, and I put, excuse me, I put the long blinds, so they should be okay. They should really be okay. Then I was just deciding what color I wanted to bring to the inside because the outside I kept it very beige, very sandy. Um, but I didn't want to mix too many colors the way that I did with my 10-minute build challenge because the outside had one aesthetic and then the inside had another. So I think that's one of the things that really bothered me about the way I designed it the first time, even though I used a lot of the modern um, furniture. I still felt that it was not, uh, it didn't feel like one thing. It felt like too many things were happening. So that's why I brought it back and I settled for the white kitchen, and I was just putting a little trash bin outside there. Um, this is where we're gonna come back in here. We're gonna change the bed because that actually, when I was measuring the bedroom size, I used a city living bed. So I just came in to select something else and just gonna start working on this bedroom layout, seeing how much I have, how much space I have to do what with. When I work with small spaces, I like to figure out a way that I can maximize that space. And that has a lot to do with furniture placement. So that's what I'm working on here. And then I had to turn on my move objects cheat because I like to pile some things on top of them, on top of each other. And I find that the only way that that's possible. So that little pullback of the camera, that was actually my mouse. I have a touch mouse, and even though it has the click buttons, right and left clicks, the entire mouse is touch. So any little movement from my palm against the mouse, like, forces the camera to pull back. And in some instances, that actually forces all of any windows that I may have in the background to all come to the forefront so I can look at them all, which is really strange because trying to do that on purpose, I haven't been able to figure out the secret code or the manner in which I have to touch my mouse so that can happen. But yeah, it tends to just do it on its own. So now I'm like working on holding my hand flat against the mouse. It's really flat, so any little movement to like the camera jumps around. Um, but yeah, so here I'm just trying to figure out what kinds of curtains I could use because even though some of the curtains, like for instance the ones I have on the longer windows, they have the same patterns, but the the little bar that you have for them, they're all different. The designs are different. The measurements of the curtains, whether it's thick or wide, they're different. And so that's really weird to work with because you want it to match, right? They're curtains that you that you bought together, hopefully. So that's just a little weird. Um, but yeah, so I got rid of these curtains over here because I was using one of the wider ones, which is really big. And I actually really love the idea of these tiny ones. The thought that you can like release them and they'll just drop. I love that. I think that is so cool. I wish we did have one that was just like open, completely open, because then you could like really work with it. The curtains in The Sims, I feel like they should have given us five of each style, and then even if the patterns were the same, they just should have matched a little bit better. Um, But oh wait, too late now, right? So there I'm just working with the space. I had decided that this would be a home for a man at some point, and I think that's when I actually decided that at the beginning, but it doesn't really come together until I start working with some pictures that I'm gonna put on the wall soon. And here's your tiny bathroom, and with the long windows. You would have had more privacy before in the other room, but yeah. So just again working with the small space, trying to figure out how I can fit things into the space without um, stopping your Sims from getting to what they need to get to. Um, which I guess if you put the move objects cheat on could make things difficult for them, even if you did get to squeeze some things together. But yeah, and I'm just figuring out. I love to use this basket. I wish it rose on its own. I don't understand why it doesn't. I think it's better suited on top of something than just being on the floor. But anyway, so I just rose that up there because I didn't want my bathroom to be completely empty. So I'm just trying to figure out how to make the bathroom functional. Like just holding on to things that you would need in the bathroom, and just without cluttering it up too much because it is a small space. It's probably just a single person who lives here. um so I don't imagine they would have too much clutter. Maybe he just needs some places where he might add some extra things. And then I'm back in the kitchen. I knew what I wanted to do with the dining table, but then considering the space I had, like I didn't want to squeeze it into the kitchen, but I also did not want to put the cabinets against the full size walls. And because of the design of the exterior, I also did not want to put um, shorter windows on those walls just so that I could put the cabinets there. It would still be the same size of window, it would just have been the shorter ones. But because I had put those walls like pulling farther out from the builds, I didn't want to make any of those changes. So I had to work with it, and I put the glass dining table into that corner, which I thought worked better. Um, the kitchen is pretty much the same layout, except that I'm using a longer um, table in the kitchen instead of a short one in the glass, and I think it actually works out much better than having the shorter table with the two chairs in a position of anyone sitting on them being able to look at each other. So they would be next to each other instead. And then here I'm just figuring out my living room, what I want to put in the living room. Um, I noticed that I tend not to put anything such as uh, an easel or any like instruments that your sim could learn. But that's because I don't know what kind of sims are gonna live in here. So I figure if I'm gonna share something, I would do basics and then let whomever decided they wanted to live here just add those things in, because I don't know, what if I put in an easel and you want your guitar rock star to live in here, and now we don't have space for that because I put in an easel. But here actually there's a lot of space behind the couch, so you could put in probably a keyboard or something if you wanted, depending of course on which expansions you have. So these pictures I thought made the home look a little bit feminine. There's a lot of floral, um, and then I came across that picture, which is my favorite, and as well as this one, and I feel like they kind of fit together. They're both a little abstract, and that's when I remembered that I was trying to make this house, or yeah, this home for a male sim. Um, so I change up a few things, just a few things, and I added this kind of like lion statue to kind of help me pull that together. In my mind, it worked anyway. Okay, so we are at the end of the build, and the screenshots will be coming up soon. I really hope you enjoyed this build, and I will speak to you next time. Bye!